All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the City of Milton Planning Commission. I am Peyton Jameson, Chairman. This is a 7-member commission appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council, created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations on rezoning, use permits, concurrent variance applications, comprehensive land use plan, and plan map, and other related plans and amendments to the zoning ordinance. Let me introduce our board members. To my left is Fred Edwards. To my right is Chris Doty, Mark Bittner, and Noel Carpenter. The petitions will be heard in the sequence listed on the posted agenda. I would like to acquaint you with some of the rules and procedures conducting this meeting. The applicant and all those speaking in support of an application will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the petition. The applicant may choose to save some time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. The opposition will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present its position. If time remains, the opposition will be allowed to rebut. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks provided time remains with the allotted time. The staff of the Community Development Department will be keeping track of time and will inform you periodically of the remaining time for your presentation. Each speaker must fill out a speaker card before speaking and leave it with a staff member of the Community Development Department. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable, before beginning their presentation. When an opponent of a rezoning action has made within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of the rezoning action being opposed, campaign contributions aggregating $250 or more to a local government official of the local government which will consider the application, it shall be the duty of the opponent to file a disclosure with the governing authority of the respective local government at least 5 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting. A violation of the relevant state statute constitutes a misdemeanor. Therefore, if you have contributed $250 or more to a council member and you have not filed a disclosure prior to the Planning Commission meeting, the city attorney strongly suggests that you have someone else speak for your point of view. Each application has been properly filed with the Department of Community Development. Signs have been posted on each site. The matter has been advertised and the notices have been mailed to property owners affected by this zoning as required by the Milton zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission's recommendation will be forwarded to the City of Milton Mayor and City Council for final disposition. The Mayor and City Council hearing will be held approximately 3.5 weeks from this hearing on the third Monday of each month at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. The Community Development Department has reviewed each application in conjunction with various agencies and departments, both internal and external to the city. Staff's recommendations, findings, and conclusions are here before us in written form, which has been made available to all petitioners and to the public. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, dialogue with the person speaking, or outbursts. Please turn off all cell phones or place them on silent. All remarks will be addressed by the Planning Commission. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. In addition, the applicant shall not submit material to the Planning Commission during the meeting unless requested to do so by the Commission. All material that you wish to be reviewed by the Commission in consideration of your application should be submitted to the staff of the Community Development Department to be included in the normal distribution of packages to the Commission. Finally, to the applicant, if your petition is deferred in accordance with the Milton zoning ordinance, you are required to update or obtain a new sign for reposting. Failure to update or repost will result in further delay. There are no exceptions. At this time, we're going to call for general public comment. If there's anything anyone in the audience wants to say in the record that is not associated with the use permit before us today. Is there any general public comment?
I don't have any cards.
Okay.
I move we close public comment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. Action minutes.
Yeah.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah, because you got the speaker right, so the microphone right under the microphone.
All right, let's go on to the approval of the action minutes. Okay. Okay.
I move we accept the Planning Commission action minutes of Wednesday, July the 23rd.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. If Robin or Kathy want to call the first item?
Yes, the first item is U 14-02, 14505 Batesville Road by LRF Milton LLC to operate a rural event facility, section 64-1842.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. You have before you the slide that shows in red the property for the proposed rural event facility. Current zoning on this parcel is AG1. Future land use map calls for this to be for agricultural, equestrian, and estate residential use. This is a copy of the revised site plan submitted August 19th, 2014. And I'm just going to run through some views of the site. This is looking east from the atrium. This is a view of the bed and breakfast on the left and the atrium, which is the event space in the middle. View looking west across from the pond to the atrium. The subject site is zone AG1 agricultural and developed with a 10,500 square foot single-family residence and other accessory structures built between 1910 and the present on 47.7 acres. There is also an existing 2,748 square foot atrium recently constructed. Staff notes that the mayor and city council approved a use permit for a 4-bedroom bed and breakfast on August 18th, 2014. The bed and breakfast will be utilized to accommodate guests using the event facility. The applicant seeks a use permit for a rural event facility primarily utilizing the existing 2,748 square foot atrium. The applicant is proposing to construct an addition to the atrium of 1,512 square feet for a total of 4,290 square feet. 296 square feet. The applicant's revised letter of intent received by the Community Development Department stated the following as it relates to the operation of the facility. 1, maximum capacity is proposed to be 250 guests. 2, hours of operation, 9 a.m. to midnight with music until 11 p.m. Following the 11 p.m. music termination, event attendees would then have until 12 a.m. to leave the site, to acquire the vehicles and to vacate the events facility. 3, days of operation, 7 days a week. Although applicant anticipates that most events will be held Friday through Sunday, it will also make the facility available during the week for select corporate, political, and other events. All events will comply with the allowable sound levels provided by sections of the City Code of the City of Milton. Applicant would be amenable to earlier closing times Monday through Thursday during the academic year, such as music until 10 p.m. and attendees vacating the facility by 11 p.m. The last call is proposed. The last call for any alcoholic beverages will be 15 minutes prior to the termination of music at 11 p.m. Traffic. Depending upon the number of attendees, all events will have either 1 or 2 off-duty City of Milton or Fulton County police officers directing traffic in and out of the facility. Valet service will be mandatory for all events over 75 attendees. Use permit standards. The applicant's site plan and letter of intent meets or exceeds the use permit standards as required by an agricultural event facility, except for the 2 items discussed below. The maximum number of attendees and hours of operation will be evaluated by the mayor and city council on a case-by-case basis for each site to protect the public's health, safety, and welfare. The applicant has proposed a maximum of 250 guests for each event, and staff is in agreement with this request based on the large size of the parcel and the location of the event facility located in the center of property. This number will be reflected in the recommended conditions. It is staff's opinion that the proposed time of midnight for ending events, Friday through Sunday, is too late and may have a negative impact on the surrounding properties. The Mayor and City Council recently approved a use permit for a similar operation pursuant to U 13-04, located at 13895 Hopewell Road, which required the amplified sound cease at 10 p.m., and the use permit required the event to cease totally at 11 p.m. Therefore, staff recommends the same requirements for the subject site, which will be included in the recommended conditions. In respect to hours of operation, Monday through Thursday, staff recommends that events end at 10 p.m. and amplified sound cease at 9 p.m. throughout the entire year. This condition will also be included in the recommended conditions. The location dimensions of undisturbed buffers, if needed to ameliorate the visual and audio effects of the facility, will be evaluated and determined by the Mayor and City Council on a case-by-case basis for each site. The applicant's revised site plan does not provide for additional undisturbed buffers, but mentioned that the applicant has planted additional vegetation between the atrium and the property line to help ameliorate noise. It is staff's opinion that based on the size of the property, 47.7 acres, the additional 30-plus acres for the entire site, the Little River to the west, existing heavy vegetation along the north property line abutting Taylor Glen subdivision, Atlanta National Golf Course to the south, and lastly, preserving the rural viewshed along both Batesville and Taylor Roads, undisturbed buffers are not required. The Rural Milton Overlay District. The proposed site plan meets the requirements of the Rural Milton Overlay District. Comments from the city arborist. The proposed use permit will not impact any specimen trees based on the fact that there will be minimal improvements to the site. Public Works Department. 1, stopping site distance profile is provided and staff memo states intersection site distance is adequate. Driveway width and radius returns within the right-of-way do not meet standards. Public involvement. Community zoning information meeting. On July 29th, 2014, the applicant was present at the community zoning information meeting held at Milton City Hall. There were 27 people in attendance at the meeting. The following issues were brought up at the meeting. Concerned about noise disturbing residents in Valmont subdivision. Concerned about potential intoxicated drivers coming from events driving in the vicinity. Concerned with the reduction of property values for adjacent and nearby properties. Residents stated they would rather see a subdivision developed than an event facility. Residents questioned who would enforce the conditions of the use permit. The City of Milton Design Review Board held a courtesy review on this proposed use permit on August 5th, 2014. They felt that it was a good use of the property, and they wanted to make sure that parking is not visible from neighboring houses. Public participation plan and report. The applicant submitted the public participation report on August 20, 2014. The public participation meeting was held on August 13th at 7 p.m. at the proposed site. There were 11 people who signed in, but there were some others who chose not to sign the sign-in sheet. Use permit conditions. The proposed development is located in the agricultural question estate residential land use category in the City of Milton's comp plan. The proposed use permit is permitted in the AG1 agricultural district, which is an acceptable zoning district for the AEE land use category. In addition, the following plan policies are consistent with the proposed use. And as we quote from the plan, we will support programs that retain, expand, and create businesses that provide a good fit for our community's economy in terms of job skills required and links to existing businesses and locate them appropriately within the city. Also, we will encourage the preservation of natural resource areas and preserve contiguous green open space development of land in appropriate designated areas as development occurs. And we will encourage development that is sensitive to the overall setting of the community and will contribute to our community's character and sense of place. The subject site is adjacent to Little River, which is the border between the City of Milton and Cherokee County to the west. To the north is the Taylor Glen subdivision. To the east is Valmont subdivision with minimum 1-acre lots. To the south is the Atlanta National Golf Club. It is staff's opinion that the proposed rural event facility is compatible with adjacent and nearby properties if approved with the recommended conditions. The proposed use's effect on the traffic flow, vehicular and pedestrian along adjoining streets should be minimal, as the frequency and timing occurs during off-peak times during the weekend hours and typically not during the week. Pardon me. In addition, traffic will be entering and exiting on Batesville Road and not on Taylor Road, where there are existing single-family subdivisions, which should minimize the impact on these subdivisions. The required number of parking spaces is 1 space per 2.5 attendees. The applicant has indicated a total of 120 parking spaces for the facility, which is 20 more than the required 100 spaces. The applicant has also indicated that valet parking will be required for events with more than 75 attendees. The parking is located in the central part of the site and cannot be seen from either Batesville or Taylor Roads or adjacent properties. Based on the site plan submitted and the proposed use, staff recommends no additional buffers on the site based on the size, existing tree coverage, and the intent to preserve the rural view shed along the roadways. In addition, there's already a requirement of 50-foot undisturbed buffer and 25-foot non-improvement setback along Little River on the west boundary of the site. The applicant has not indicated any additional lighting on the site. If lighting is proposed, it must comply with the night sky ordinance. The proposed ingress and egress to the event facility is via Batesville Road, and this will have minimum direct impact on the subdivisions along Taylor Road. Conclusion, if approved with the recommended conditions, the proposed rural event facility is consistent with the City of Milton 2030 future land use plan and policies. Therefore, staff recommends U 14-02 be approved conditional. In terms of the recommended conditions, to the owner's agreement to restrict the use of the subject property as follows: that it will be a rural event facility. B, the number of attendees shall not exceed 250 people for any single event. Pardon me. The hours of operation shall be the following: Friday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. with the ceasing of amplified sound at 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. with the ceasing of amplified sound at 9 p.m. To the owner's agreement to abide by the following: to the revised site plan received by the Community Development Department on August 19, 2014. Said site plan is conceptual only and must meet or exceed the requirements of the zoning ordinance and all other applicable city ordinances. To the owner's agreement to the following: a 10,536 square foot structure, the existing house, a 4,296 square foot atrium, which includes the addition, and all other buildings shall not be expanded in size as depicted on the revised site plan received by the Community Development Department. The location, number of parking spaces shall be as depicted on the revised site plan. All events with more than 75 attendees shall be required to have valet service and provide a minimum of 1 off-duty officer for such events. And finally, access to the site shall be subject to the approval of Milton Public Works Department prior to the issuance of any permits or licenses, and at a minimum, the following shall apply. Driveway shall meet required intersection site distance and shall be certified by a professional engineer, and driveway shall be improved within the right-of-way. And that is the presentation, and
Okay.
I'm willing to accept any questions, certainly.
Any questions for staff on the presentation?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Later.
Let's go
Okay.
see the applicant.
Yep. We'll call up the applicant, Representative Richard Kay.
Good evening. I'm Richard Kay of the law firm of Taylor English Duma, 1600 Parkwood Circle, Suite 400, Atlanta, Georgia, 30339. We represent LRF Milton LLC, who is applying for the special use permit to operate a rural agricultural events facility under Milton Code Section 64-1842 on Batesville Road. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting George Ivey Jr., who is the patriarch of the Ivey family. I felt very fortunate to be able to meet him before his passing. And Mr. Ivey has owned that property since the 1960s. It was a great experience going through the property and him pointing out different trees that he had planted, that he had made the pond himself. And his vision was that after he passed, he did not want the subdivision, if possible, a subdivision to be built there, to be developed for that sort of commercial use. He wanted to keep the pastoral, rural type setting. His idea was to put some sort of events facility, a restaurant, an inn, something like that, to sort of offer up the property to the community. The proposed use also permits the next generation of Ivies to live on the property and make it their permanent home. LRF was formed for the sole purpose of applying for the special use permit. And it's made up of beneficiaries and or their spouses of the Ivy Trusts that are the owners of the property. LRF stands for Little River Farms, and that's the river that adjoins the property. The Ivy property is approximately 80 acres and is comprised of farmland, wooded areas, and landscape grounds. It contains a small lake, an equestrian barn, and other structures supporting its current farm use. The main residential structure has been permitted for a bed and breakfast use. In order for the property to be self-sustaining and preserve its current rural character, the trust owners and the beneficiaries of the trusts require a commercial use to generate sufficient income to pay for such things as taxes and upkeep. The events operation in B&B would provide the property with a unique venue offering where wedding parties or special event participants could spend the night prior to, during, or after the events. My time is limited, so I wanted to bring your attention to several key points, in particular, address the staff report. We agree with much of the staff report except for the hours of operation that are being recommended. The applicant requested that the hours of operation for this facility be from 9 a.m. to midnight with live or artificial music until 11 p.m. for Friday through Sunday, and for Monday through Thursday during the academic year, music until 10 p.m., and attendees vacating the premises by 11 p.m. The hours of operation, as far as we're concerned, are absolutely necessary to make this facility a competitive one with other similar venues. I submitted tonight to Robin McDonald a spreadsheet that we did rather quickly with 20 some odd locations which we thought were competitive with ours, that we are competing with for business, and are showing their hours of operation. Respectfully, the staff report recommendation, we think, is contrary to the normal hours of operation for similar facilities statewide. The staff recommended operations with live music until 10 and closing the facility at 11. Further, during the week, sound would cease at 9 p.m. and vacation of the premises by 10 p.m. during the entire year. I want to say that I've enjoyed working with the staff, and they've been extremely accommodating throughout this entire process, but respectfully, I believe that the staff's recommendation is flawed and unmanageable for a facility of our size. First, the staff cited to the fact that the city approved the special use permit for 13895 Hopewell Road with similar operational limitations. However, the Hopewell location is completely different than our site. In fact, we're not quite sure how the Hopewell site was even approved without a variance, because the City of Milton Code Section 64-1842 requires that an event facility have a minimum of 5 acres when the Hopewell site doesn't meet that requirement. Further, Hopewell does not have the 32-acre buffer between itself and its neighbors that we have. Secondly, we filed a revised letter of intent with significant revisions to our original application to accommodate a perceived noise inconvenience raised by the neighboring Valmont subdivision. As stated in our revised letter of intent, we conducted at the neighborhood meeting live sound tests to show that the sound levels would not present a problem. In addition, you should have in your file an affidavit from Mr. Abernathy, our sound engineer, with respect to tests that were conducted by him. During the sound tests, we began the test with music being blasted at approximately 90 to 95 decibels, well above what would have been actually played at the venue. During the meeting, we walked to the property line at Taylor Road to the east, and the sound meter barely registered 45 decibels. In fact, a pickup truck that went by us during this period of time registered 75. We also tested the sound meter on the other side of Taylor Road and at the border of the Valmont subdivision fence, and it didn't even register 40 decibels. As you know, the City Code Section 2680 permits up to 65 decibels at the property line or receiving property until 10 p.m., and thereafter 60 decibels between 10 p.m. and 7:30 a.m. Our sound testers prove without a doubt that we did not even come close to reaching our code permissible levels. Even though we were well within the code limits, several of the residents of Valmont said that the only thing that they would be comfortable with is absolute silence. That is, no noise whatsoever, regardless of whether or not it fits within the City of Milton noise regulations. Although we couldn't accomplish this, we did the following additional noise remediations at great expense. First, we removed the 32-acre easterly property tract from the house events atrium completely from the application. So that 32-acre piece is no longer part of the application, but it will rest as a rural buffer between the two pieces of property. Further, by removing this tract, we have relocated the parking, which was originally situated on that tract with a view of the Valmont subdivision, to a hidden view on the remaining 48-acre property. This way, there is no sound emanating from the parking, doors closing, that sort of thing. Further, and more importantly, the 32 acres cannot be used for any aspect of the event facility whatsoever. So it will not be used for, any kind of commotion or events, that sort of thing. Secondly, we've agreed to construct an enclosed atrium which will further buffer the sound with plexiglass and solid walls. The sound was well within code requirements. However, we will be reducing the sound substantially with these additions to a negligible amount to less than a whisper in the Valmont subdivision. In fact, during our tests, one of the residents of Valmont said to us that his wife was in the house that really looks onto our property and said that she couldn't hear a thing during our sound tests. So we will be getting pretty close to silence, and noise and timing should present no issue in this application. Further, and very important, is the economics of this venture. Apparently, what the staff did not take into consideration was our facility's competition and their hours of operation. I would like to add the following, you have the following spreadsheet, but I would like to add that as part of our application so you get an idea of the numerous events that we're competing with and what their
1
hours of
minute left.
operation are. Again, for the staff also to compare us to Hopewell, which is less than 5 acres, that does not have the buffer, should not set precedent for the City of Milton as how it deals with events facilities, certainly an event facility of our size. In addition, we have looked at other issues raised by the Valmont residents and will implement a system whereby police will be directing traffic on the ingress and egress during the events. We will have valet parking, and each customer that rents our facility must sign an agreement, which will be further written on each valet ticket, that the applicant has the right to refuse to give the keys to any attendee who is visibly intoxicated. We believe that our application as applied for fits well within the overall City of Milton 2030 comprehensive land use plan by preserving
time
its
is up.
rural character. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just make a note? We have other people who would like to speak
Oh, yeah.
in favor of it, so
We can
they
add
would
it.
need to add
Yeah.
some time.
Yeah, that's fine. How many people?
I have two people and a read-in comment. So.
Let's add 5 minutes.
Okay. We'll add
If that's
and
okay.
that'll be 5 minutes on
Okay,
both
cool.
sides. So,
Right, okay, that's good.
so the next person is Kathy Johnson.
Good evening. Put this up a little. My name is Kathy Johnson, and I live at 385 Taylor Glen Drive in Milton. This is my neighbor, Lisa Crandall, who lives on Taylor Valley Way, also in the Taylor Glen subdivision. And we just wanted to come and speak and represent many people in our neighborhood. I actually had submitted just a list of neighbors that I'd spoken to today and yesterday, and we have 33 households all in support of this use permit. And we just wanted to just give the other side of the coin for the other neighborhood that is directly abuts the LRF farms. It's directly behind. And actually, Lisa Street connects to the property, and my house is very close, just through the woods, just a little bit. So we just wanted to let you know that some of the neighbors also do support it, the event facility, and because of the we are a large subdivision of approximately almost 60 houses, and as of just in the last 2 days, we've had, like I said, 33 people that are in support of this. What our big concern or our big issue on this is what will happen if it does not turn into this event facility. We are worry that it would be a subdivision, and just with the City of Milton's green space initiatives right now, I think that putting another subdivision would go against those initiatives, and we just worry about talking about the traffic that would be increased with a subdivision rather than an event facility that the events would just happen occasionally. So I think that this as a rural event facility would be a much better use of the property than another subdivision. And everybody in Milton complains about all the subdivisions that are building up and going on now. There's 2 right now on Taylor Road itself that are being built and approved and being built right now, and that could be a 3rd one right on Taylor Road. So we think that this would be a much better use of the property than another subdivision.
Okay,
Thank you.
Lisa Crandall.
Lisa Crandall, Taylor Glen, and I live directly in back of the LRF farm, and I've met Mr. Ivy several times, and I just wanted to let everyone know that we truly support this event facility. I'm not at all concerned about the noise that will travel from that facility to my house. I've lived in the Taylor Glen for over 10 years, and I've seen a lot of changes in Milton, and I really welcome the fact that they're trying to preserve some of the farmland and not put a subdivision in that nice area. So I just wanted to express our support for the event facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one card to read into the record. It's from Mr. Ken Morton of 14732 Taylor Valley Way, and he states the following. My neighborhood, Taylor Glen, backs up to the Ivy property, and I am in full support of the zoning to allow the Ivy family to conduct weddings in their facility. I would much rather have this use versus another neighborhood. Thank you, Ken Morton. I'm sorry, I didn't make the clock go. Would there happen to be anybody else that came in that wanted to speak for or against, so I can collect the cards? Okay, so that should be it for the
4?
4.
Okay, so I guess let's go for the opposition now.
Okay. So the first, and so the opposition will have approximately about 14 minutes or 13 minutes.
Okay.
The first one is Frank Morris.
Hey, good evening. I'm Frank Morris. I live at 11493 Valmont Lane. Deborah and I have lived there for 4 years, and I've been asked by some of the neighbors in Valmont to go ahead and speak on our behalf as why we're opposed to the Little River Event Center and our concerns that we're being asked to really contemplate right now as residents of Valmont. And when we looked at the property at Valmont 4 years ago, we saw the farm. We recognized that the farm could eventually turn into maybe subdivisions. And I think many of my neighbors, based on conversations I've had with them, probably had that same understanding that that was possible, that At some point, we might lose the visual of the farm, and we might have a neighborhood across the street from us. Now, recognizing that we would probably have a neighborhood of similar size, at least acre lots, but it would be unfortunate if we lost that view, but we would have homes. What I don't think any of us, as I've talked to my neighbors about this, any of us thought is that we would have this commercial entity across the street from our homes. And I know that Mr. Bittner and Mr. Jameson have visited the property, and they were there the night that many of us walked the property. And so you got a good visual of what we were faced with. And so you went through the sound check and all of that. But what is unique, I think, about this sound and the way it's going to impact the property is the one thing that's missing right now that we really haven't had is once all the accommodations that the LRF have agreed to do is what is going to be the actual sound impact to our neighborhood and what is going to be the actual traffic impact to our neighborhood and the comings and goings of a commercial entity on that property that's going to attract hundreds of people per event. And you could think that they're saying that they told us, and I believe you would have heard this too, on the property that they were shooting for 60 to 70 events a year. Well, that's at least one a weekend, but they're commented that they would expect that they would probably have events Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So now we're looking at the potential to have 150 events during the week, on the weekend, throughout the year. Add in the commercial events that they want to have during the week where they want to attract either it's political fundraisers or other commercial events, corporate events and stuff like that. And that's going to be what we're going to be faced with. And what we can't be told right now is how loud that noise is going to be and how it's going to impact us and how that traffic is going to impact us. And what about the free-flowing alcohol at a wedding with 250 people and being very happy and excited and welcoming the new bride and groom into the family and all of that? How is that going to impact Milton? And the question that you have to ask is how does allowing this event center help to preserve rural Milton? You're taking a beautiful farm, a beautiful space, and in the middle of it you're putting this bed and breakfast, which none of us, I don't think any of the neighbors had any qualms about as a bed and breakfast, but we do have concerns about this commercial entity that's going to operate in the middle of this farm. Now, we heard today that there's a 33 or 37 acre buffer. Well, that's not realistic. There's a couple of acres between direct line of sight between that property and the homes that back up to Taylor. Now, this weekend we were fortunate, and Joe Ivy and his fiance got married. So we had a little taste about what that noise impact could be to the neighborhood. And for some of our neighbors, it was very loud. And I don't know if any of us had a sound meter out. No one's come to me and said they had a sound meter out, but I don't know that Mr. Ivy or his attorney had a sound meter out that night. But it was loud. Some of our neighbors have commented that they could hear the noise inside their home. One of our neighbors ran a survey, and the respondents that did, there were 41 people responded out of the Valmont neighborhood. We don't have that many homes, so I'm sure that some, spouses, the dual response to the survey, but 34% of the neighbors heard the music playing in their home. It was loud enough that they could hear it in their home. Another 40% said that they could hear it outside. So, 34% said they could hear it in their home and outside. 40% said they heard it only outside. So that's about 77% of the people that responded said that they heard it outside. So the question is, what's going to be the impact to our neighborhood when we're wanting to have events ourselves outside on our decks that face the property, or in the back, and we're having to deal with that noise and competing with that noise. And maybe we understand that there are rules that say how loud the sound could be at the property line. But you know what? Those are the rules that impact me and that I'm accountable to today. But I don't violate those rules. I take into consideration my neighbors. Well, there's not going to be any consideration when this LRF is up and running as an event center. As long as it doesn't exceed that noise decibel, you're going to say, well, we're fine. But it's still a sound that you can hear. It's not crickets. It's not cows. It's going to be an audible, registered noise that you're going to have to deal with as a property owner. And we're being faced with that. So that's the decision that we have to make. And, I'll refer to one of the comments in the report, and I appreciate that you put this together for us, We've had a chance to take a look at it. You know, one of the guiding principles in Milton is we will encourage development that is sensitive to the overall setting of the community and will contribute to our community's character and sense of place. That farm, as it sits, contributes to the community and the sense of character and the sense of place. That's what attracted us to Milton. I'm sure that's what attracted a lot of my neighbors to Milton, and specifically why they picked Valmont. But having that commercial business in our backyard that's going to run from the hours of 9 until, if you put the restrictions and you're successful on your restrictions, until 11. That's not what any of us signed up for when we moved into Milton. And we don't think that that adds to the character of Milton. And if you approve this center and this commercial entity, then what about the farm that's on the corner of Batesville and Birmingham? You know, with all the white cows. It's directly across from Triple Crown. That would be a great place for an event center. If you approve that one, are you going to be obliged to have to approve the next one in a similar situation? Is this really what we want Milton to be? Now, the city council has other ways of dealing with supporting landowners. It's on your website. There's land use, there's green space use, there's different ideas. You've got somebody that you can look on the website, and I've looked at her site. She offers suggestions on how to deal with this. We don't think that this is the only suggestion to preserve Mr. Ivy's land. And if Mr. Ivy was living across the street and was having to listen to that noise 150 times a year or more, do you think that he would really sit back and say, okay, I've accomplished what I wanted. I've got this green space, it's protected, but you've got all this noise to deal with and traffic. You know, and it's not just 250 people that are going to be at the farm. If they have a wedding up to 250 people, how many bartenders, how many servers, wait staff, caterers? Just, you know, it's not 250 people. So we think you have in your power to change some of these recommendations. I have questions about these recommendations that you've made that I'd like to get some answers to, but also respectful of our time. If this event center goes through, we in Valmont have some conditions that we would like put on, and I'm going to yield my time now to one of my neighbors for that. Thank you.
The next speaker is Claudette Canold.
Hi, good evening. I'm Claudette Cunnold, and I live at 11453 Valmont Lane. And I'll be honest, we moved in May, and the main reason we moved from the Crabapple area out to that area was to get away from the noise and the commotion that has now become Crabapple, because we were right in the heart of that, and we wanted to be out where it was quieter. And now that's being taken away from us. I have submitted, it's front, back, and then a second page attached of all the conditions that we at Valmont Neighborhood, many of the neighbors have sat down and kind of compiled a list of things that we would like to see done or put into this use permit to handle the noise pollution, the safety, the traffic congestion, the sanitation, and the lighting. The noise was terrible for the wedding last weekend for many of my neighbors. We would like to have the event facility be a permanent structure. That would include permanent walls, windows, roof, and doors. It would be completely enclosed. It would not be an open structure as it is now. We also would like it limited to just events and weddings. We don't want to see concerts. We don't want to see political fundraisers or events there. And we don't think that there should be any amplified sound systems used outside of the facility, even if there's a wedding held out on the grass. Speakers in the facility should face away from our property. And we would prefer that the decibels not reach any more than 45 at the property line of Valmont. The natural green barrier they currently have put in place sits too low. It needs to be 25 yards from the structure and not across the pond. The trees they put in are much shorter than myself, and they need to be about 8 feet tall and spaced closer together. We think the event should be limited to Friday and Saturday only, that they should not be held on Sunday through Thursday. Between many of my neighbors, we have lots of children who go to school, and they need their sleep during the week, and they don't need to be listening to loud, raucous music. We also feel that the times that even the staff administered as part of their application process for you guys should even be shorter. We don't feel they should start before 10 a.m., On Friday and Saturday nights, we feel that amplified music should stop around 8, and that the event should end by 9 p.m. And during the week and on Sundays, everything should be, the amplified sound should end by 6, and people should be vacated the property by 8 p.m. For safety, serving of alcohol and not stopping at an hour before event, I find is very dangerous. These are rural roads. There's no lighting. Valet should prevent anyone who appear to be under the influence from driving. All parking will require the use of valets no matter the number of guests. Limit the total number of guests, including the management, all staff, anyone working on the property, to a maximum of 175 people. At least one off-duty police officer must work every event regardless of the number of guests. No shotgun, skeet shooting, trap shooting, or weapon discharges will be allowed on the property by guests or staff. And if a marquee is placed on the property, it will be located only at the main entrance and not at the corner of Taylor Road. The event facility will bring people who don't live in the immediate area to this community, including event staff, caterers, vendors, and guests, who will now see the homes around this area, thereby potentially increasing crime rates. Traffic is a huge issue. We already have an issue with the amount of traffic that goes up and down Batesville Road on a daily basis. And now for every one of these events, the start time, you're going to have 100 cars coming in at one time, and that is not manageable on that road. That is a 2-lane road. No access should ever be granted off of Taylor Road, even including their catering vans, their equipment deliveries, their rental deliveries, their staff. No cars will be parked along Taylor Road or out on Batesville Road, and parking should be out of view of the Valmont subdivision. All traffic must exit the premises by 10 p.m. on the weekends. 2 Milton police officers should be hired to direct the traffic for events of more than 50 guests. They should be at the entrance into the property and at the intersection of Batesville and Taylor Road, because we have a hard enough time getting out of our subdivision now. Sanitation, they don't have enough bathrooms for 200 plus people. They will probably need to bring in portable toilets. We would like for those to be out of our sight vision. We do not want to see those. They need to be brought in only 24 hours prior to event and removed 24 hours after the event. And as for lighting, if they do place a marquee, we prefer no lighting is ever placed on that marquee at their entrance. No lighting shall be installed that would interfere with the rural atmosphere that currently exists, and no lighting shall ever be directed toward Valmont subdivision. In conclusion, we're asking the Planning Commission and the City Council to consider the significant impact this event facility will have on rural Milton residential community that surrounds this facility. In order to maintain the rural Milton atmosphere, help more than 50 children focus on education, and keep the community safe, we request all these conditions be included in the land use permit. Finally, we request the land use permit be limited to 3 years so that the City Council may review the long-term impact of this facility at that time. Thank you.
Okay, the opposition has time to rebut. And you have 1 minute and 52.
Okay.
Thank you. Really what it comes down to is the viability of this venture. And it comes down to the hours of operation. If we are not able to operate in competition with other similar venues, we will not be able to stay in business. We have accommodated the concerns by agreeing to build this atrium, by giving them this 32-acre tract buffer. We have brought in an expert concerning the noise vis-a-vis the city ordinance. There's no expert evidence from them. There's no expert evidence from the opposition on any aspects of this. And again, if we do not get the hours of operation that we're seeking, we can tell you that it will be impossible for this business to be viable. Thank you.
I apologize. I have one more in opposition to read into the record. Debbie Morris, 11493 Valmont Lane, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I support the applicant's bed and breakfast, but not the event facility. And that's it. And that's all the comment cards we have.
Okay. I guess that will close the public hearing. So if there's any questions for staff or the applicant, this is the time.
That be done after the public hearing, or that before?
Y'all got any questions? I don't know. I mean, we're done, right? With
Right, with the
yeah.
public hearing. I mean, you can still ask questions.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So any questions for?
I got a bunch.
Okay. We all do.
Okay, you want to close the public?
No. Sorry. Yeah, we're gonna leave it open.
Okay.
Leave it
You
open.
go.
Let me go?
Yep.
Okay, first of all, I guess I'm just general comment. I'm sensitive to both the needs of the property owner and the citizens who are out there.
Do you have your speaker out?
So-
Microphone?
Okay, so being sensitive to both the property owner and the neighbors in that area, I've seen a lot of good suggestions here from both sides, from all sides, and I've just got some general questions about what's been done up to this point. First of all, this I guess this would be to the applicant. This tract of land, this 32 acres that's been subdivided from the initial partial, whose suggestion was that?
It was our suggestion as an accommodation to the other side. They were concerned about our original parking was set up within that 32-acre tract, which may have had some visibility to Valmont. So we also were sensitive to the noise issue, so we took that track out as well as being a portion of the events. The original was the full 80 tracks, but this portion will not be used for events in any way, shape, or form. So we're not going to have tents set up over there. We're not going to have people over there. It's going to be completely separate. We have moved the parking from that area that was in that 32-acre tract to an area that's in the current tract, but back away from the visibility of Valmont. So again, we did this as an accommodation to those concerns.
Okay, and my follow-up question to that then is, what's the future land use plan for this 32.5-acre tract?
Farm.
And you anticipate that's going to be farmed for how long?
For the foreseeable future, we have no plans to do anything else but to maintain that as a pure farm.
So at a minimum, that's going to maintain that the existing condition there for a minimum of 5 years?
Absolutely, yeah.
My next question is going to be about this proposed pavilion. Has that actually been designed by some architect?
Well, the current pavilion has. We've just submitted plans for the extension. And what that extension will do is, based on the fire code, we have to have a 20% opening there. But what it's going to do is have the thickest plexiglass that we can find, as well as a fireplace and a wall to be constructed there. That's going to further dampen the sound. The way we've set up the speakers is that they're facing away from the Valmont subdivision. So with this addition, it's going to further shield any sound coming in that direction.
And was there some indication or some use of a, I guess it would be some type of sound attenuation engineer who helped design this so that they could do it, similar to some type of music studio to where you're trying to insulate the sound?
Well, yeah, by virtue of the fact that we are going to be having a wall constructed there. I mean, before, when we did our tests, all we had was a sheet of vinyl, sort of like you would see if you were looking at like a roof being repaired because of damage, that sort of thing. So a vinyl, that's what was there. And again, we were well within the limits. By setting up now an extension of that with the plexiglass and the wall, it's going to be further dampening to those effects.
And so this is going to be enclosed on 3 sides with solid walls?
Yes.
This structure, this proposed pavilion expansion is going to be solid walls on 3 sides?
No, it's not. No, it's not. But it's going to have the plexiglass.
With windows made of
Yes.
plexiglass, but
Yes.
there'll be no openings in this area.
There'll be a 20% opening, which is required, that there be a 20% opening on each one of these walls.
Opening in as to open air or
Open
opening?
open air. So again, to the extent that, and one thing we talked about was to the extent that there might be the wall that's facing Valmont, if we had to plant a tree or something there, again, we're happy to do that. They also referenced the Leland cypresses that we planted. Leland cypresses grow 4 to 5 feet a year, and you really can't put them close together without that. You'll have to remove them after about 5 years. So we would anticipate similar type plantings, but again, really just a block to give that additional buffer.
I see. The rest of the partial there, the part that is now 1B, that's where this atrium pavilion, everything will be constructed and utilized, and the land use permits, I guess, is being applied for. What is the future plan for the remainder of that particular partial?
It'll stay as a farm.
And that, again, for the foreseeable future, we're
Absolutely,
talking 5 years
yeah.
plus?
Yeah.
Kathy, this is probably more direct at you. The expansion that we're working on there, or I guess it's in design right now, the expansion of this particular pavilion. My question is, what is the requirement that they meet as far as openings there? Is it one of those things to where, as we were writing the code for these other use areas, is that where this code comes into, where they've got to have 20% of usable or open space?
He said it was a fire code.
It's a fire code. It has nothing to do with land use.
Yeah, Matt Marietta
Is the
had
fire
mentioned that to
marshal.
us. Yeah.
It's the building code and the fire code that will come into as part of the building permit. We're talking about the zoning, once the zoning's in place and everything, but that is under the purview of building and fire for the expansion.
And that's because it's not a house, because it's a...
It's an assembly.
It's an occupancy, it's an assembly. It
Yeah.
becomes an assembly, and their original design of being an open-air pavilion, there was no need to deal with, it was already open, and people could leave any 4 directions. But once it got redesigned to enclose 3 of the walls, I spoke to the fire marshal, and he said just initially that they would need to keep 20% per wall plane to be open, and so that's a requirement of the fire marshal.
So we mean open, does the plexiglass count? as
No.
open? So open
No,
air.
it has to
open
be.
air.
It has to be open.
So, because I was there,
Egress.
because I went at the sound check. So when you're talking about 3 walls, you're talking about the wall that's not the wall that's going to be open. That's going to be the one that's on Taylor Valley facing
Right.
Taylor Glen.
That's
Okay.
fine. That's not a problem.
So
It's
that one's
100,
going to
yeah.
remain the way it is.
Right.
Correct. Okay.
Well, the extension is
Right.
going to go out where there was like a grassy area
Right,
there.
exactly.
So it's going to.
So that hole will be kind of how it is. It'll be open the way it is now.
No, it's going to be closed.
That's
That's
gonna be
where the
closed, too.
extension's going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the extension's going to go that direction to give more of a barrier.
So it's like
to-
technically 4 walls.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's good. That's all good. I think that's all I have for right now, anyway. Thank you, sir.
Staff, a couple questions. Can we make it, if we did this, can we make it that have the off-duty Milton Police? And would they be trained in enforcing any issues, like code, noise? Is that possible, or does it have to be a code person?
Well, they do have a DBA. They have access to a DBA meter. So, I mean, obviously, our code enforcement's not around 24/7. So they have access to that to measure the sound. So, obviously, they're not going to have
Well,
events.
sound and any other issues that
Right.
came up.
Yeah. I mean, they already do other events, different events and, public situations. So I'm sure they're very well trained in dealing with alcohol and noise and everything.
Is there a fining structure, let's say if it was loud, I mean,
A what?
a fine structure in place?
Yeah, that would come under our
So we,
code enforcement. We would issue we would ask them to turn it down, and if not, the ultimate is that we would issue a citation to them, and they would have to come to court and explain. But it's all under our code enforcement process. But because most of these offenses are on the weekends and at night, it's usually handled by the police as opposed to the code
that's
enforcement.
what, the police could handle that.
Absolutely.
So that way there'd be somebody.
Absolutely, yes.
I got a bunch of questions.
Oh, so do
Go ahead. I'll let you know what Frank got.
For staff, first of all, where do we define what events can take place? 'Cause I read wedding and similar type events,
Okay.
which opens a Pandora's box of what can take place on this property.
Yeah, I would have to refer
So
back.
can we restrict
Yeah, you can restrict the
type of events?
correct.
Because I have visions of overnight stays of campers.
Well, they couldn't camp.
Yeah.
That's we have another use permit for that. So
They could not?
They could not camp. No. I mean, it's going to close. We're going to have a point of
But that's
stopping.
what, okay, that was
Okay,
my,
yeah,
do
that's-
we have a point of closure?
Yes, it's in
Hours
the
of
conditions.
operation.
The hours
That's
of
ours.
operations. Right. They would have to vacate except for the
Oh,
owners.
okay, they will have to vacate, so that,
Yes. That
hours
deals
of
with that.
operations means that they must be clear to that property at that time.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, with the exception of the people if they decide to spend the night at the bed and breakfast, but there's
I
only 4
understand that.
bedrooms, so
I understand
there's not very many places for them to sleep.
Totally different. Right now, we all understand we have a moratorium as far as development's concerned. On the flip side of this could be developed once we have determined the rest of,
Well, can I make a slight correction? There's only a moratorium on CUP rezonings, but the
Not on
AG1,
AG1s.
no, I mean, they
So-
can come in and do
okay,
AG1 at this point.
that clears that, okay. So at this time, with the slopes, the ponds, have we made any determination, or can we, of how many homes could go in there at 1 per acre?
We haven't, but there is, I have heard from, I mean, basically because of the stream buffers, because of the water bodies, and there's some floodplain, it would not yield anywhere near how many acres there are, but I can't say how many it would yield, so it's not going to yield 70 houses out of it.
No, I understand.
But I can't really give you a specific number.
But this also could come under the conservation subdivision as well.
When we do have a conservation subdivision, that would be optimal. I believe that this could be a good solution for this piece of property.
Okay. I'm still concerned about the events, of defining the events. That we do have that.
I need to look at what the definition of the event. We created a definition,
Because
but I don't have it right in front of me. So
Opens up as, to me, in fact, a large concern, as well as I think the neighbors would.
let me look it up, and I can get back to you
Okay.
about what our definition is.
I'll save the rest for later.
The applicant, I got a bunch of questions for the applicant. Porta potties, where will those be located?
Well, that's assuming that they're necessary.
Right. So where would they?
They would be out of sight. I mean, you've walked the property.
Right.
So you're very familiar
I
with
s-
them.
what I'm- what
So
I'm
we
envisioning
could
is
stick,
not a
yeah,
lot of
so we
porta
could
potties
stick
in front of
them
the house.
back where the sheds
Okay.
are if that's something we
Okay.
had to do. So, but at the event that took place this weekend, that was not an issue at all.
Okay.
There's 6 bathrooms in the house.
Parking, is that asphalt? Are y'all gonna pave that, or is that gonna be gravel?
We're going to gravel it.
Gravel, okay. Outside lighting, I guess all the events are gonna be inside that atrium, correct?
Pretty much. The wedding that took place was, we had, I think there were 5 classical musicians. If you're facing Valmont to the left,
Right.
there's a orchard space right there. So we had kind of the wedding set up there, sort of for pictures and stuff. There were classical musicians, and the wedding took about a half an hour.
Right.
And then everybody left and then retired to the atrium.
Okay. So there's no, y'all aren't asking for amplified music outside, correct?
Correct.
So the way it was set up at the noise was kind of how it's going to be set up.
Yeah,
if
except
that
like I
is
said,
it.
there was this, like a little orchestra that was 5, cello and a violin and such that played in the orchard during the ceremony, and then after that it was everyone retired back. Yeah.
And so this-
So no amplified, yeah.
Right. And then I guess the entrance is all the entrance for workers, employees is all going to be on Batesville. Correct?
Pretty much. I mean, the only time that we ever saw, we have a construction entrance that's on Taylor Road. So when there's they had to bring in lumber, whatever, that's sort of the way they came. But we really don't anticipate that ever.
I guess
really
if,
being
if
used.
we're getting a lumber, would you rather get it at 8 a.m. on Taylor Road or 8 a.m. on Batesville Road? I guess is kind of where I'm getting at.
I don't see us using it. I really
Okay.
don't. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's sort of why we kind of divided it up. So I don't think that there was any problem with access for any of the trucks that came in to do the catering and such.
Okay. I'm good for now.
Fred, excuse me.
Yes.
If you look on your screen, or I can read it out loud, it says rural or agricultural event facility means a permanently established facility to include indoor, outdoor, and indoor-outdoor or both sites utilized on a regular or seasonal basis for public and private gatherings. The facility takes advantage of special rural characteristics such as natural features, historic structures and landscapes, special views, open vistas, or secluded pastoral locale. Types of uses may include, but are not limited to, weddings, corporate events, retreats, community events, private parties, and family gatherings / reunions. So we don't call out every single one, but if it was the
So
preference.
if I want to have a rock concert,
We wouldn't have a rock concert, and we would be fine not having one
well, I
too.
understand you wouldn't, but I'm
Sorry.
Excuse me.
Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Come back.
All right. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, I mean, we would certainly follow the law in that respect. We have no desire to rent it out. And again, I mean, looking at the people that could afford this type of thing and sort of what they're looking for a rural event. They're not looking for, sort of a rap type concert or something like that. We would certainly be fine with a condition to that effect. I mean, that's not what we're looking to do here.
okay. Back to staff. We say that it's no more than 250 people,
Attendees, yes.
attendees.
Right.
What means do we have to know that it's not 375 next week? I mean, we just assume that we're going to have that they'll stay to 275?
I think there's a couple of things. First, if there are, our code enforcement, a lot of it is complaint driven. And so if there are people who suspect there's more people than 250 attendees, then, we would, have somebody go out there at an event and just check on it to see if it is. I mean, you're right, we don't have any way to prove as it
No, I
goes, but
understand, just,
we have done that before in other situations where that we've gone out to check on the situation.
And also to address that as well, I mean, we would be happy to permit the zoning enforcement to take a look at, you know, what our contract says and the amount of attendees, whatever you feel comfortable with in that respect.
back to Robin, as far as these events, they would come before us to apply for that, or strictly open?
It's all them conducting a business, and it's all would be independent after this point.
Okay. That's offering right now.
Staff, I know we've addressed like music being cut off at a certain time.
Correct.
But I think an important thing also cut off at certain times the alcohol.
Right.
So I think if the music's cut off at 10 or 11, whatever it is, I think the alcohol needs to be cut at the same time.
Doesn't the state control that? I mean, if they got a liquor license to serve alcohol,
I don't believe that there is.
Yeah,
we're not giving them the right to serve alcohol.
But we can cut it
Yeah,
off.
I didn't see that in the conditions that's y'all right. Did y'all
We
recommend
didn't
that?
propose.
We proposed a condition that it
Okay.
would be 15 minutes before the end of music. There would be a last call given.
Did
So-
we?
So that would be even earlier then, in a sense, you know.
If you guys would like to include that in the
Right.
recommended conditions, you're more than,
Okay, that's what I was.
fine.
Okay.
How did we come up with the hours of operation? Other than just looking at the only other use permit we've given?
I think it was a couple of things. Obviously, the applicant's request, and then looking at
We thought that was
feedback from the
reasonable.
community, as well as the existing, the use permit that was previously approved, which was actually under a different use permit,
Right.
so it wasn't this one.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant while we got them?
I guess just a question on the future use of the property. Are we able to, at this point, or will the city commission be able to make some stipulations as to what can be done and how the rezoning and when the future development of the rest of the tracks can be done? At this point, do we do that now, or that happens later? When does that happen?
You're speaking to the portion that's not included in the use permit?
Well, for example, right now, the zoning requires whether or not you get a variance or not, that's another story, but the zoning, I believe, requires that if you're gonna have an event facility, you gotta have 5 acres. So what would keep the applicant from just carving off 5 acres for this facility and then building houses on the rest of it?
Nothing. We can't prevent them
Yeah,
to take,
it's
that's why
AG
he's
one.
asking.
They can do anything
yeah.
they want within AG
Then
one.
they definitely be, but then the noise ordinance would kick in if you got a house right next door.
It would have to be approved to be subdivided.
Hmm?
But yeah, nothing can stop them. Robin, as for the entrance on Batesville, I think y'all mentioned in your report it was too narrow. Is that, it was too narrow or?
Yeah, it appears right now, the Public Works Department just basically made it so they have to meet the standards that the Public Works will require, but I believe that currently it does not meet the width, and once it gets inside the property, we don't much,
Care.
it's up to them.
So if
to
a
deal
delivery
with it.
truck can get into it from Batesville Road, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going at.
I mean, if they don't right now, then they need to make it so it's done correctly and safely
Okay.
to improve that entrance in such a way to make it correct.
Okay.
And that's part of your, I think, number 4, isn't that part of your recommendations, staff
Correct,
recommendations?
that was from the Public Works Department.
Doing that
Okay.
part?
Yeah.
To address your last question, none of the delivery trucks that came to the event this weekend made any other access to Batesville.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, just procedurally, I know that you're asking the questions, but how do we proceed if we have questions, or if I would want to clarify to make sure you're understanding what has been said.
It's really just between us and the applicant, I guess. Technically, if I wanted to direct a question towards you, but we typically don't do that. Unless you, yeah.
That's great.
Right.
Do they have time left?
Y'all have any questions at all, or before we close the public hearing?
I don't have questions right now, no.
Okay. All right, well, that will close the public hearing, so let's kind of discuss this, because what I kind of think this all boils down to really is the noise and the time, because I walked the property, and Mark was there, and I know it read 45 to 50 decibels at that line, but you can hear it. I mean, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I think my question is, I kind of wish I wish we had the new design. Do we have that new design? Do we have the actual what it's going to look like? Do we have it? Oh, can you bring that up? That'd be great.
Now, also, this does,
Because it was kind of open. I mean, that
Yeah,
noise was.
sound carries.
Oh, yeah.
over the land.
Oh, yeah. There's really no buffer in between the two.
Mr. K, does that include, that doesn't have the.
This is
revisions
apparently what he's filed, so.
Which would not include the regulations of
The
fire
20%?
marshal yet.
Okay, so we gotta look, okay.
But it'll give you the design and the
I haven't even
idea.
opened them up yet either. So that is
So this is facing the subdivision?
correct.
Okay.
So that's the fireplace. And I think he's already submitted these plans.
So are these the 20%?
Yes.
That's what that is?
Yes.
Is that completely open or is that a door?
It's gonna be a door.
So all this is gonna be closure, right?
Yeah.
So it's all closed
Yeah.
except for,
Those are doors, though.
yeah, those
It's
are.
not really open, they're doors.
They're doors, and then that's the plexiglass?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And the opening is the transoms above the piers. Where's the elevation of those?
Okay, so we're gonna have a 6. Oh, that's the.
Oh, here we go.
So that's the trigger.
Okay, this is it.
So what it's saying is there's a transom windows above that
Uh-huh.
and it's open below.
Got it. And that's gonna be with the plexiglass?
Correct.
Okay.
Also, can I make another statement? Before this can be permitted and approved, it has to go before the design review board, okay? Because it's become a commercial structure.
Well, that's definitely better than what it was when I was out there.
Yeah, all you had was
It was just like a piece of vinyl.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the right side was completely open.
Correct.
Okay.
This is in review right now, yes? Not
Can I-
approved, it's in review.
Can I make a
Yes, he
statement,
did that.
please?
I think
It's,
he
it-
submitted today.
he's,
That's
he
45
resubmitted
Yeah,
it
I went and
today?
saw the meter.
Okay,
Anything
when it was
BS
originally put in, we had to kick it back, but.
Yeah. Oh, they're in full compliance. So you can definitely, you know, I mean, that first row of houses can definitely hear it for outside for sure.
They could be, yeah.
Feel about the fact that he said they don't operate, they're not gonna do this.
There is
Okay. I mean, Also, it's, can I make a statement?
Yes, shoot.
Basically, there were two things, like I mentioned, it needs to go to the design review board, and then also it wouldn't be final permitted until when and if the use permit is issued.
Okay.
So, I don't think they want to build it unless they
Right.
get their use
Right.
permit anyway, but
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
it wouldn't be finalized.
Like I wish we had some more experience on the special events, because we only had the Hopewell house, or the one on Hopewell Road, and
So,
all the neighbors were in favor of that, pretty much.
right.
So, do we limit, what limitations, because I printed it out, but what limitations do we have a guest, a max occupancy on that?
It was 150.
150 at that
Yeah.
one? Okay.
Mhm.
And then the 10 and 11? Okay. Did we do a last call for that? I don't think we did we? Just wanna-
For alcohol, no,
This was a whole
no.
kind of learning process, I guess, for that. Okay.
think we should go down this list of items, both
I agree.
the staff has presented
Mhm.
and both Little River Farms has presented, and just discuss each one of them individually and see where,
I agree.
where this thing can kind of be brought together.
And yeah, also on the list that the Valmont had, I thought was a pretty good list too that we can work with too. See which one y'all want to start with? Staff. Okay. On their recommended conditions. So times. I mean, let's just go straight to the times, the hours of operation. I asked Robin to look at Chicker Farms that I've been to numerous times. It's a more rural area for sure, but that's like the type of competition that.
They do concerts though.
Oh yeah, they do everything. But that's more rural, but that's the type of competitive that people are going to be. They're going to call Little River Farms, they're going to call Chicker Farms, and they're going to try to. So, hours of operation. What are y'all thinking on that?
I'm in agreement with staff.
I think that that it's reasonable to limit this first line there where they've got Friday through Sunday. I think that you could limit that to Friday and Saturday for those particular hours and make Sunday similar to what we've got down here proposed for the weeknights.
Okay. Hopewell. I mean, I want to keep on going back to Hopewell. We did Fridays.
Straight. Yeah, there was no.
There wasn't even a weekend. It was Sunday. It was every day. Okay. All right.
I think we should add alcohol, stop serving when the amplified sound ceases.
Which is an hour prior to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So stop alcohol serving 1 hour prior to.
When you cut off the band.
Okay.
I think the whole goal, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we want this to be a competitive business. We don't want to ruin the quality of life. I think that's kind of where I'm at. And you have a wedding at 6. Band starts playing at 7. That's 3 hours.
Receptions are 4 hours.
Yeah. Great. If the wedding starts at 5. I mean, if the wedding starts at 5:30, you can. But I guess on average, they start at 6. 6:30, 6:45,
Well,
7.
it depends if they're inside or outside. What time of year is it?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
So we're suggesting to drop Sunday?
To add Sunday to the weekday.
That's what I'm suggesting. I think that's reasonable accommodation.
So it'd be Sunday.
I'm just trying to think, what events would they want to have on a what events have you been to on a Sunday night at a large event facility?
I don't know, but I'm
don't
just
think I
saying I don't think that there should.
A Sunday
I don't think
night
it
should
should
correspond
be
to Monday
created.
night. Okay. All right. You good with that?
Mhm.
Okay.
What about the weekday hours? I mean, I'm hearing,
I'm fine.
I-
I'm fine with staff's hours.
Yeah.
I think staff's hours are it's not a perfect world. We're not going to please everybody, but I think it's as close as we're going to get for them to be able to have business and still be able to let the neighbors put their children down, not hearing bootylicious like we got on the email. I think that's an appropriate time.
Agreed.
I don't know how you're going to do that, first of all, and secondly, I think if you're going to leave these times, then you're going to have to utilize some of these stipulations to where
Oh yeah.
the speakers cannot be used outside, because oftentimes when you're having a quote concert
Oh,
or
yeah.
something, an
This is
amphitheater
all
type of
absolutely
condition.
everything that I'm saying is under the assumption all amplified sound is inside the atrium.
inside the enclosed
And
portion.
the
of
enclosed,
that.
yeah, exactly.
So I mean, that'll probably end up having to be another condition.
Right.
Because doesn't speak to that exactly. does it?
Okay,
So
then I want to add
when
that.
you get ready,
Okay.
it's all your
I
list.
think we go through here, maybe we can add from this list here, the second list, maybe see what we can add and be agreed to from that. That might be one of them.
Sunday to Thursday,
Right.
9 to 10, okay. Amplified at 9.
What about unamplified sound, like somebody just, like
Well-
they had a quartet, so,
I think that should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming as far as the wedding itself, you usually do have a violinist or something along those lines, but the actual event being held outside of the atrium, I see what,
We have a noise ordinance for that.
Yeah, I kind of would,
okay, I just wanna throw that
yeah,
out.
I
just to
kind of,
make sure
yeah,
you're
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, a drum or something like that's going to be what a drum is, but if somebody's you're playing horns and things like that, and they're, roaming around,
Surely a soloist
walking
or
around and doing something, you can't really limit. Oh, you must stand in these two positions right here. It just wouldn't make much sense, I don't think. Especially if it's a wedding.
Yeah, I'm fine with. I would like to see the only entrance to be off of Batesville, as I think that's a concern.
Okay, so can I just speak to that?
Yep.
Right now, they've gotten rid of the whole entire frontage on Taylor, so that's not part of the use permit, so
Oh, so it's
and also they're not allowed to do it even if they didn't.
So it's
because
pointless anyway.
access is only from, now maybe if you wanted to make sure that maybe put something in about deliveries and
deliveries
all that shall
be on
off
Batesville.
of Batesville,
Okay.
just to make sure.
Yeah, okay. Are y'all good with that? All deliveries of commercial nature be on Batesville? Okay. You're gonna make this motion, better write us down.
No. Don't look at me.
I'm also, about the porta potties, line of sight, I'm thinking that needs to be line of sight away from Valmont, I guess.
You could just say all temporary
Porta
potties, porta
Yeah.
potties shall not be seen from either Batesville.
I mean,
or-
seen, I guess it's more on, because, you could technically see it, I just don't want it on the side of the property where the atrium is. Kind of want it where the side of the park, where the
Where
parking is.
right.
So I
But
don't
you
know.
can't see the parking, so what I may suggest
Okay,
is that
perfect.
it will be placed where you cannot see it from the public roads.
Okay, yeah, the public, okay, that's perfect.
Is there an ordinance like so many restrooms per person?
So I spoke to the building official, no, not that I know of, but there is a distance issue and that may be tied to that, so that'll be something they'll be reviewing when they review the pavilion. So once a structure gets so big, it has to have bathrooms.
Then so many
Right,
feet.
right.
You want to put your no concerts?
Be
Divine
different
concert.
Yeah, I'm tempted just I don't.
The events alone leave us open.
Mm-hmm. But then again, you don't want to go down that path when you're restricting them too much,
So exactly what do we have about the location of amplified sound?
I wrote down, amplified sound shall be located, within the atrium.
Within the enclosed portion of the atrium.
Okay.
Couldn't they have potentially a speaker outside for the actual service itself? Would they not be allowed to have that? If you have all amplified sound inside, I mean, you have a small speaker that people can hear the valves, and then it's taken inside for the.
Well, the way this is written, that wouldn't
No.
be permitted.
Yeah, as a way we're kind of working on it now.
Well, we can say other than,
The
for
ceremony.
ceremonial purposes.
But then we get into the fact was what if the ceremonial purpose is at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So
It doesn't violate the noise ordinance, what
Right.
difference does it make?
yeah.
They should be allowed to have it if it doesn't violate it, just for the service.
You know, a way to craft that.
Because like you said, I mean, what if it's not a wedding? Like you said, what if it's a political rally? You know,
That's a
I mean,
ceremony.
Oh, well, exactly, but
Yeah.
so he's not gonna be saying vows or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
so-
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You might be walking around.
We could say amplified sound of music, amplified music.
Yeah, that's really
And then
what
that
it is,
way,
isn't it?
if
Yeah.
somebody's just speaking for, the ceremony or the event, they can have a little microphone and amplified sounds. And we just have to go from there, and if it exceeds the sound, like you said, I mean, we can't legislate every single event
Exactly.
and situation, but I think for music, live or whatever, what do you call it?
Music, I mean, I think-
DJ, just music.
Yeah, I think kind of
Music or entertainment purposes or something along those lines, if you could put that
I
in
think
there.
music. I mean,
Amplified sound of music shall be located within the enclosed pavilion of the portion of the atrium. I'm sorry.
is that cool? Is that good, Chris?
Yeah, it works. Because that's the biggest noise.
I mean, do you have to specifically mention speakers with that comment, or that's
think just
inclusive of that?
I think amplified.
I think amplified would include speakers, yeah.
Yeah, that includes
The,
speakers.
and the equipment.
Like for concerts, to Fred's point, maybe something like no per person tickets are able to be sold. It has to just be events, you know what I'm saying? You
Right.
can't sell tickets for
How
concerts.
do you do a political rally then if you want to sell by plate or something?
Right, and they'll have fundraisers where they would,
Yeah.
I mean, just even like, we already
When
have
you
a
run for mayor, I
nonprofit
mean, don't
doing
you
a
want to be able to use this
fundraiser.
place and
If I
raise
run
money?
for mayor, you
Yeah,
should be.
see there? So, I mean,
Because I want to come.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Call me.
I mean, I
Call me,
think,
let me know how it went.
I think is we don't want to restrict it, kind of to the point where we don't want to restrict it so much.
Well, I'm just saying to stop concerts, you know,
Right,
no
right.
ticket sales, you know, that kind of, that's, you know, something like that.
You can say for-profit concerts if you wanted to
They can make
Well,
it,
the
they can
whole
make
go
it
down that route, but I would.
It's a commercial.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
you
I mean,
kind of
it's
open
only
it up.
250 people.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You're not gonna have a
it,
thousand people
yeah.
there.
I kind of
We'd
say
have
you
the
kind
police
of
out
leave,
there.
you kind of leave,
Alright.
leave that open because I think that when it boils down to it, it's the time of the noise, and it needs to cease at that time. I think that's when that's the main butt of it. You know, no matter if you're having a DJ, the decibels are going to be they need to be the same as
Concert
Concert.
started at 9 o'clock that morning.
yeah. Okay.
But you still will be limited to no more,
No.
at the current, we're talking about
250
250 people, unless we
people.
decide to make it less.
Right.
Right now, you're talking that your maximum attendance would still be 250
Right.
at present.
Right.
Can you tell me the note that they had about guns and things like that? Is that a permitted use now, or will that be some type of permitted use to discharge firearms on that property?
I don't believe that,
You can,
You can discharge fire.
I'm
Sure
fairly
can.
certain, yeah.
JG1.
Yeah.
Actually, but I thought Milton had
Well,
no
yeah.
shooting within city limits.
I was gonna say, I don't think it does anything to do with how the.
I'm fairly
Is there an
positive you
ordinance
can
against
shoot a
no shooting guns in the Milton city
To be
limits?
honest, I don't know.
no matter what's the word. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we need to know.
I think he can shoot guns.
No,
It's stepped to
I
the
think we
side
do
and
have an
ask
ordinance.
if you want me to.
Do you know, Kathy?
No, I don't.
I'll go ask
I
the
think
police
there's,
in here.
I think we have an ordinance.
Go ask the police.
And no shooting in the city limits.
I
Just the whole
believe you.
city.
Absolutely. I think you're right. Yes.
Why do you think that?
think
I
I've
just
read that,
read-
'cause I have guns out.
Yeah.
I can't shoot in my backyard.
That's why.
Well, I've been shooting in my backyard every night.
I mean, I know in my neighborhood I can. I would.
Is
You
it-
would think that you would, right?
Yeah.
If you had 20 acres and you were out
Yeah.
there.
I'd have a deer stand. I'd be shooting.
Actually, those do exist in Fulton, which
Yeah.
is Milton right now. Okay, so let's stay on this.
I think we just really get them up there and start to begin to go down one by one. What can be done, what can't be done? You know, what's reasonable?
I agree. I think we should do it.
It's questions from us to them.
We can have, I mean, what?
Just go down the list.
But we don't necessarily need to question the public. This is really discussion amongst ourselves on
Exactly.
how we feel about these requests.
Right, and like I said,
That's not open, that's,
right, yeah,
That's
between,
right.
yeah.
we're discussing particular issues.
Should we ask him to reiterate on those hours? Or leave alone?
I think we've talked about all of the noise pollution issues rather, except for the
What it is,
landscaping
what it
issues,
is.
the berm.
Yeah,
I think
I mean-
they kind of, the trees are gonna grow. I mean, the way
Yeah.
they're planted now,
Well,
they're far
we have
apart.
in the past
In
said,
2-3
is-
years, they're gonna be next together.
Is this a make or break
You know,
deal?
in Cypress.
But he,
Got the answer.
Here we go, and the jury's out.
Handy dandy policeman right next door.
All right, shoot.
Okay, he said you can shoot firearms as long as it's within at least 50 feet away from a public road right away and away from a house, 50
Okay.
feet from a house.
That's what I thought. There you go.
At present.
Yeah, I mean, I think
In
it'll be
Milton.
that way. Yeah, in Milton. Now, you can't shoot deer, you can only bow and arrow shoot.
Right. Okay.
Well, I think we just eliminate.
Fred's gonna have his bow and arrow out
as
somewhere.
gun range type thing.
Yeah.
Just eliminate that.
That's a big political fundraiser now, man.
Skeet shooting.
Skeet shooting.
Yeah, and he said you can do skeet shooting.
Yeah.
That-
Well, then they'll just move to the 32-acre lot and just do it there. That's what I do.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I would do.
So whatever.
That's a good point. That's exactly what.
so just leave it.
No, I don't think so. I think you should I think we should write it in there.
As not an allowable event.
Write it in.
Take it out.
What's that?
Take it out, like skeet shooting and
Okay.
gun shooting, gun range shooting as an allowable event.
Can't,
I'm not sure
I
if
don't
I can
think-
say that.
well, I was wondering, can you, I don't think we can do that.
Why not?
I mean, that's
That's
more of a
city
city
law.
law.
Constitutional,
Yeah,
right.
I probably wouldn't want to. I
Second
mean,
Amendment.
without
Never
city
heard
attorney
anything
here, I probably, I don't want to touch
They're
it.
asking for a special use here, so they're asking for a special condition, so you can put a condition on it, on the
Without Ken
recommendation of
here,
special
I don't want to
condition.
touch that, and I would prefer.
We could do it
just
subject to law review.
I'll just let council take on that one.
I can make a statement that you consider
Considered
it
it.
and that we needed further,
For further legal review.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let council.
but it
decide.
won't be a part of it, but I'll just say that you wanted to look
Okay.
at that.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna take them one.
Yeah,
time.
what's,
How
yeah,
we
where,
gonna-
are you on the, yeah, okay. And the noise pollution, we've taken care of the inclusion, taken care of the weddings, and the times. Leland Cypress planning, I saw those, I mean, they are small right now, but, you know, they'll grow at some point, I wish there was more there, but. we
Where,
moved-
where are they exactly on this drawing?
They, Mark, can show you.
Here's the pond, they're like right down around can't, this,
So
it's
they're
got some
along
trees.
this, they're along this
Yeah,
road
yeah, there's trees and stuff up here.
that are there.
Yeah, so they're blocking these views that way.
And really, just because the elevation is so low right here, it wouldn't do,
Exactly.
you wouldn't gain anything by putting any kind of berm or anything
Yeah,
right there.
it's-
Now that this partial is not part of it, it's almost impossible to, just because the elevation is so
Right.
low.
Yeah, this, yeah, that just drops down.
And see, they're at 960 feet over here at these houses, which is almost the same elevation as the existing atrium right now. You're just looking across this valley.
Yeah.
So there's just no way to block it.
Right. Direct all speakers inside the facility away from Valmont and Taylor Glen.
Which I think that's what this
Oh, yeah,
new
yeah.
building does.
It's already there.
It's there.
Alcohol, we've addressed the hours on the stop.
What about, I didn't hear you speak to 3B about the elements with more than 75 attendees should be required to have LA service.
Yeah, on the safety, yeah, we're kind of, that's exactly where we're getting at. I'm fine with that. All events with more than 75 attendees shall be required to have a valet service and provide a minimum of one off-duty police officer for such events.
What, the Milton police officer?
Yeah, I mean, is that, I mean, would it-
Typically, they do City of Milton. There is Fulton County police or sheriffs that are available, but typically they do use Milton police.
Okay.
So you're saying we're covered there? Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Are y'all good with that as far as the safety, the police officer? Okay.
Yep.
You know, and as far as, you know, at least one off-duty police officer must work every event regardless of number of guests. I mean, I think that's a little overkill on that at least. And we already have a sign ordinance on the marquee.
Correct, and we don't allow it to be.
Right.
Well,
We don't
it
even
could
allow
be
it.
lit from the ground with,
Just
you know,
the-
uplit.
right.
But it can't be internal or
Okay.
anything like that, or changeable copy or anything.
And right now, since the only entrance is off of Batesville,
Yeah, that's
that wouldn't be included in anything along Taylor Road anyway.
right.
I mean, technically, if they have more than one frontage, they can have, it has nothing to do with entrances. Well, actually, no, since it's not
It's
part
not-
of the use
There's no
permit, so it
frontage
could
on
only
the-
be on the,
on Taylor.
you're
It's not
correct.
part
of it, they can't play it out.
But if they kept the original amount, they could have had another sign on the other side.
That's out of the equation now. Oh, man. Okay, exit off Batesville, we did that, no access to Taylor.
I mean, technically, they could have a 2x2 sign, they can have up to three 2x2 signs on their own private property, and we
That's
can't
fine.
speak to what it says,
Yeah,
so,
that's fine.
okay.
I don't wanna.
I got a question. If there was a special condition, then the applicant could apply for a special condition for instance, let's say that it was Easter Sunday and they wanted to have 6 o'clock service out there, sunrise service at the farm. Could they apply for a special
It's an event
condition
for-
for that kind of event?
Well, what they can do is they could go ahead and ask for a special event administrative permit, and you're allowed to have 2 per location per year. So I suspect that they could utilize that if it was something that above and beyond what's allowed currently.
I mean, it's not the regular practice, but they could do it if something.
Anyone can apply. for a
Anybody
special
can
event.
apply for that,
Right.
correct. But if they felt like that there was gonna just go overboard in the sense of the number of people, or it's like you said, early service,
Robin, is it only a nonprofit that can do that?
no.
I thought that's what the statute said.
I mean, not our administrative use permit, no. I guess really the only other big thing I see is the outdoor lighting.
They're not gonna add any.
Yeah, so they're not gonna add anything, that's, so, okay.
So we did we did put the alcohol ending an hour before the end,
Yeah, the alcohol
When
would
the
end
music
when.
Stops music.
Stops when amplified music.
and we've got music stopping an hour prior to, or do we have?
An hour prior, yeah.
Okay.
So,
To whether it's on a Thursday
Yes.
or whether it's on a Saturday night?
right, so,
Got an hour and an hour?
yeah, right now we got Sunday to Thursday, 9 to 10, right?
With the ceasing of amplified
Yeah,
sound.
amplified sound stops at 9, alcohol stops at 9, everyone has to be off by 10. And then it's 10 and 11 on the weekends, Friday, Saturday.
That's something the police officers could go in and verify that the bars have shut down.
Right,
But,
correct.
yeah, but, you know,
there's
they're not
already
gonna,
they're probably most of the time gonna have somebody off duty already there, because.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the off-duty
Right,
police
yes.
would be able to verify that the alcohol's cut off.
I mean, I honestly feel a little better that it's, with a new drawing, I feel a little better because, I mean, when I was out there, it was, you know, I mean, you could definitely hear it, but I think with that enclosure, like, I wish I was there with it all being done. I think it's gonna be better. And it's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be better. I think it's gonna allow them to at least be competitive. What do you think, Fred?
I think all these traffic issues listed here are one way or another. We've encompassed those since there's nothing coming off of Taylor Road in the first
Right.
place.
Mhm.
So most of these are taken care of.
Right.
Cater vans, there's nothing off of there.
You get all that stuff. You get it all.
You talked about the portable toilets. I think most of this is in.
Okay. Can you give me a recap, Robin,
Okay.
of what? Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so we start from the beginning. 1A is good, 1B is good, with 250, you're not changing that. When it comes to 1C, the hours of operation now will read Friday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. with the ceasing of amplified sound at 10 p.m. C2 is Sunday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. with the ceasing of amplified sound at 9 p.m. And then C3, we say stop the serving of alcohol at time of music
You could
ceasing.
You could probably put that in the first two, music and alcohol stops.
Okay.
at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
All together.
Okay, alcohol. And then we have amplified, it'll be, I guess now it'll be a 3. Amplified sound of music shall be located within the enclosed portion of the atrium. And then 4, C4 would be deliveries shall be directed on the Batesville entrance. And then to speak to the all portable toilets shall not be viewed from public right-of-ways. And then we've set aside, it won't be part of the motion, but I have a note to talk about the shooting of firearms and how that might be addressed at some point. And I think that's it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Since when we did the fining structure before, we didn't anticipate serving alcohol past that time. Would we have to revisit that maybe and add some fines back in what we did previously?
Fines. I mean, that's
To
all.
cover this, I mean, suppose
Okay.
suppose it's
I
10:30,
still
they're
don't
serving
understand
alcohol.
how we're not giving them a license to serve
No,
alcohol
no, no,
with
no,
this use
no,
permit.
they're gonna get their own license.
Exactly,
But-
and there's rules and there's laws by the state that require when and they can and can't serve alcohol.
They could probably serve it till 12 or 1 o'clock.
Exactly.
But we can limit it.
I don't think we
I
can.
think
We're
we
not
can.
issuing the license to serve
But
alcohol.
we're listed the permit,
Right.
so I think we can.
Well, I can't remember the grid right off, but I mean, I think that if they were, hopefully it wouldn't come to that, but what we have set up a system where we review the violations with the city solicitor and make recommendations for the fine.
Fine, yeah.
So we'd be happy to do that,
Okay.
so,
I just think if we put rules in, we need to have consequences if they don't follow.
right. I
Let's
mean,
not reopen that.
No, not today.
Yeah, no, that looks
Yeah.
like,
The whole team.
yes.
Anybody, any final discussion? Y'all think this kind of, think we can make this work?
I think at some point, and then this is really nothing, I don't think there's something we can do at this point, and it would be up to the city council to do it. But I think at some point, there's gonna be an issue of where, when the rest of this land is developed around this facility. I think that's.
According to the family, they have no intent to develop it. That's the whole reason for this use permit.
There's nothing you can really.
I hear you.
So are we suggesting they're not telling us the truth?
I'm suggesting that I've heard several things in 3 different meetings, and they don't always match up, and they're not the same one, the second meeting or the third meeting on down the road. And I'm saying that the story is developing, and I'm saying that the story is evolving as necessary, as need be. So I don't think we have the whole story. And me personally, I don't think it's all in there yet. Are there ways that staff or city council is going to be able to limit, put stipulations in there for saying, look, if we did grant this issue, how can you tie up the rest of this and slow that down?
I don't think you can do
There
that.
isn't.
Nothing whatsoever, right?
No, but I think it was, as it was mentioned, is that if you're putting in this event facility, you're almost eliminating the use for residential purposes, or else you have to go back and eliminate the use facility if you're gonna develop it. I don't see anyone buying a house next to an event facility, so, I mean, I think that will, that proximity. So, therefore, I think that would preclude that development to happen in the future.
Okay.
Or they could always withdraw, they could just dismantle
Right.
the event facility and
Right.
sell the
Exactly.
whole 80 acres
Yeah.
and develop
That's right.
it.
I see
That's
one or
probably
the
what
other.
would happen.
You know,
Exactly.
I don't see
If
both.
it doesn't work out, they're gonna develop it. Yeah. That's what, yeah.
Is there right now, this is conditional, or will it be permanent granting of this, or is there some
Yes.
condition on it?
Yes, it goes in perpetuity with the land, so if they would sell it, it would stay with the land.
Yeah, it's just like a zoning.
Yeah, it's a rezone.
Anybody else? All right. Hear a motion. I'm-
Again?
What? Just you can say the staff.
Yeah.
With our added recommendations noted by staff.
Well, there you go. I second.
Will that suffice? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve.
That's what I was looking for, was the number. There it is, RZ 14-11.
Here, you go and do it.
Yeah, so, I make a motion that we approve RZ 14-11 with the,
Staff's recommendations,
With the
and
Additions.
our additions as noted by staff.
There you
Our
go.
additions as noted by staff.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Or aye? Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Aye.
Wait.
Opposed.
Two.
Okay,
So 3-2.
okay.
Chris made the motion and Mark
Mark
seconded.
seconded.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
Next item is RZ 1411, to create a conservation subdivision ordinance, Article 21 of the zoning ordinance. Staff is recommending that this item be withdrawn to allow further education and dialogue with the public and other stakeholders regarding conservation subdivisions. So we're just asking for withdrawal.
Okay.
But if you want to ask more questions about it or anything, we'll be happy to answer.
What is the status?
yeah, well, I mean, what do you think the timeline is
Yeah,
now?
timeline, thanks.
6 months?
Go ahead, you
Okay.
start. You start. And I'll
Ponder, yeah. So I think that it was the city council and staff felt like that we needed to back up and not just defer it, but to actually withdraw it to give us additional time. So, I
Right.
mean, we're thinking a few months
Okay.
before it comes back to you. At least, yeah. Maybe the beginning of the year or February. I don't know. That's why we're withdrawing it, because we didn't want to keep on deferring it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and we really felt we needed some more community dialogue and education, in terms of explaining what a conservation subdivision is, to try and, get more input, so that we can use that input as we develop this new ordinance.
Okay. So the moratorium gonna last another like 6 months or so?
Well,
Well,
That's what it sounds like.
the moratorium, that will be, continue to be deferred.
Yeah.
We will be bringing forward, though, the TR, which was one of those
Oh, yeah.
zoning categories that was caught up in all the moratorium, because it really, we only included it because we wanted to clean up some of the language in there. So we would like to bring that one through.
But you all have already voted on it, so
Yeah.
it's only to the
Yeah.
council that
Okay.
needs to go to, so.
And they already got rid of the CUP and NUP, didn't they? The council,
Not yet,
city
no,
council
that's
voted
on the
on it?
That's under
They're
the.
kinda all waiting for that to
Yep.
be done, yeah.
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 So, what's on our agenda for next month?
What-
Or yes, you go.
You know what? I have no new items, so we may,
We've had it before.
we can cancel it.
Yes.
if-
I will.
Yeah, you're having your surgery, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be incapacitated anyhow.
Oh, we need to have a meeting then.
So, I mean, how's
fine,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do we actually have to formally
Have a
cancel it,
friend's
or you
house.
just?
Yeah.
There's nothing on the
Yeah, we
agenda?
have it planned,
Well,
sure.
but we're not gonna cancel it
Let's,
yet, but. it
let's
can-
have a discussion on pain clinics.
Yeah, let me bring up one, just happened to run across this article in the North Fulton.
Can we make a
Yeah.
vote
Yeah.
on this first, and then we
Oh,
can talk about
all
it?
Yeah, we did it, did we?
All right, motion on the conservation.
Withdraw.
Anybody?
I make a motion to withdraw RZ 14-11.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to
Got
tell you,
carried away with
reading all
that
those
no
documents
meetings.
that were submitted, and actually Dr., what's her name? I'm sorry,
Wrench, or no, the other.
Dr. Rencher.
Right.
Between the stuff that she sent and the stuff that you guys provided for us both, it does become more clear if you get into it and a little bit knee deep into that stuff about where they're headed. And I mean, I think that there are some ways where we could make it to where some developers will at least consider it. You know, I think of us wasting our time building one that just can't be done, but from reading the stuff, I think there's a way to where you
Yeah,
can
and
make
that's
it
what we have to vet out.
palatable.
That's right, and how we do that, and there are different ways we can do it, and that's really the crux of the whole issue.
Yeah.
Right. But,
So,
What
to
you
be
got?
continued.
yeah.
What you
I
got,
have
Fred?
some updates, but Fred.
Yeah, he's
No,
got late breaking news here.
Yeah, no, right.
Letterman's in it.
Yeah, as it talks about events, I noticed that they're forming what they call the Milton Saddle Club, and this group's going to meet, and it's at Shannondale Farms. And then it goes on to say that the main focus is to sponsor a Milton rodeo,
Awesome.
tentatively scheduled for October
Where?
Sweet.
at
At Little River Farms.
Shannondale Farms.
I don't think he agreed to that, though.
At Shannondale Farms.
You have to, yeah.
And,
Sign me up, sign
the
me up.
key, it was fine. I was
I'm
fine
joking.
with the rodeo, with the rodeo.
Or
That,
the goat rope.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to ride a goat.
the rodeo part all fits in. That's okay. Then it said, sponsored by Carl Black Roswell.
Nice.
Now
Our
it
dealership,
becomes-
we're gonna give out a
So
free
we're gonna have like a mud bog out
Now
there.
it becomes, does
on top of
does
the
this,
baseball field and everything
yeah,
else.
does this
This
all,
is not city sponsored at all, and I haven't received any kind of special event
that's
permit.
Yeah.
all I was
So
asking.
I'm not sure that that's ever really going to.
That's,
Oh, man.
my point was,
I've been
it has to
practicing all
come
these weekends
for a
now.
special event, right?
Administrative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have to look at how many people, where they're gonna park.
Yep.
How much police you
That's-
need.
You're not gonna be in the
all that
invite
stuff.
list now, you know
That's-
that. You're not
Yeah,
invited now.
Exactly. Thanks.
That's exactly why I brought it up.
All right, what do you
I
have?
can send them updates, I'm gonna stand up.
Okay.
I always like to look at you all. Let's see, we start talking about the conservation subdivision, related to the September 22nd, the city has hired a consultant who's going to be,
Don't let me walk away.
will be presenting a conservation plan
Right.
with different techniques for preserving our green space. And he will be making that presentation at the council meeting on September 22nd. And
Is that the same or similar to the one that they gave to the public? Didn't he already, or somebody do something with that?
This will be
He did a general education
That's just
for
what
a
it was
lot of
all
people
about.
there.
it's, well, it's gonna have all, you know, he came in, he's from the University of Pennsylvania, and he is a green space expert, conservation expert, and so he really came in to evaluate all the current tools that we're using to assess where the potential green space in the city could be, and then look at other techniques that we haven't been using, to sort of give us an assessment of an overview of the whole thing. And so he'll be doing that on the 22nd. And then, as we mentioned, we will then start, and we're looking at the possibility of hiring an outside consultant to help us with the conservation subdivision initiative. Someone who can come in and provide all the PowerPoints in terms of explaining it, who has the expertise to answer all the questions.
Okay.
Make sure everyone's
Yeah.
comfortable that we've done our due
You know,
diligence.
lay out the issues, as Noel says, that, you know, how do
I
you
don't think I want my tax
come up
dollars
with
going to that.
an ordinance that doesn't get shelved immediately because no one wants to use it.
Yeah, we get this
but
great thing and then it's,
that's so-
we're not using that thing.
Yeah.
It's not so
It's too hard.
convenient that,
Exactly.
we're giving away the store. So,
Right.
you know, so it's a fine line, and it's not as easy as one thinks, and so if we get one that's really usable, we really have to think about it. So that will be going on. In addition, one of you will be asked to participate on an advisory task force that we're forming, because we are moving forward with impact fees. And,
Paul.
He
I
loved
know
that.
on that.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer if there's a volunteer spot.
He loved that.
I know something about impact fees.
Okay, all right. And so we're asking, you know, as we've done with other advisory groups, we've asked for a representative from all the different boards and commissions in the city to serve on that. And do you all know what impact fees are, or should I give you the, okay. So that's, that has started, we've hired the consultant, he's already starting to do research, and it is a requirement that we have an advisory committee, maximum of 10, and that half of which have to represent the development or real estate community, and the other 5 have to be from the citizen groups. So we're putting that together, so we will put Noel then on the list, and you'll be receiving an invitation, I think, the beginning of October is when we're looking to get the group going. So
Will there be
that's
skeet shooting at that?
There better
Sign
be.
me up.
Yeah, sure.
Or you
like
can have
skeets.
more than
I only
one
like
if you
How do they
want.
taste? I've never had a skeet.
Yeah.
They're a little
Dry.
yeah.
Dry,
A little
yeah.
crunchy. Yeah.
White wine. What was that?
You gotta really soak 'em.
50 feet
Yeah.
from the house.
Wrap
Oh,
it with
no, that's what I'm
bacon, it's
saying.
all fine.
50 feet.
I'm
from
sorry,
the
we're
house.
going downhill.
All right, I'm gonna make this quick, all right.
Okay,
and then-
sorry.
And then the other thing is that we have hired Caleb, you all remember Caleb?
Oh, yeah.
Who helped with the form-based code for Crab Apple and here, Deerfield. Well, he's going to be writing the form-based code for the 2 plans that you all approved, that were subsequently approved by the council, Arno Mill Corridor and the Route 9 North Extension. So, he's starting on that, we met with him, so that's going on too. So we've got, lots of, things in the pipeline here, and, so it's all good.
So does that assisted living center, does he expect that he get, I mean, they still have the sign up, you know, saying for sale and stuff, I'm assuming since city council approved it.
They're working on their civils right now, so.
What about the one across from Cambridge? How come they've never broken ground yet?
Sewer.
They're working on their sewer.
That's
Is that,
Story.
is that what it is?
They're not getting them sewer.
Yeah.
Fulton County, is it?
They can't get their sewer.
No, they're trying to access it through the public shopping center, and that went through a bankruptcy. Well, not bankruptcy, but it got sold as investments, and so they're trying to get the permission from them to do
No,
the
I-
easement.
Is it off? Is the thing off?
Yes.
No, because we haven't.
Closed
Oh.
meeting yet, so.
So anyway, so it is a long story, but
Okay.
they haven't been able to get their sewer, and that's where we need to do that, I guess.
Okay.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.